Welcome back to the Archive Network. Aurelius here with Malik, curators of the Treaty Archive. We left Concordat of Worms last time the world was remade, but history's judgment awaits. Today we pick up where we left off. The treaty is signed, but the true test begins now. Can paper and promises rebuild trust after decades of suspicion? The political and religious map of Europe is about to change. The Concordat of Worms is not merely a historical formality. It's a declaration of coexistence in a realm long defined by conflict.
Aurelius, you talk about declarations as if they have some kind of magic to create trust. But the truth is, it's much messier than that. Sure, the ink may have dried on the parchment, but the wounds of conflict still fester in people's hearts. The Concordat was a step forward, but it didn't erase decades of suspicion and pain. Rebuilding that trust won't happen overnight. It's a process that could take years, maybe even generations.
Indeed, the aftermath was complex. In the autumn of 1122, the Holy Roman Empire and the papacy swiftly moved to implement the new order. Bishops and abbots, having been pawns for so long, were now to be invested through dual ceremonies. It was a careful balance. Neither side could reign alone under this new arrangement.
But that balance is precarious, Aurelius. The old power dynamics won't just vanish overnight. Take Lombardy, for instance. Many bishops and local lords there saw this concordat as a direct threat to their authority. They held on to their traditional privileges with all their might. You can't just wipe away centuries of deeply rooted interests with a treaty. It's not just politics. It's about real people who fear losing their influence and control. Change takes time, and not everyone is ready for it.
You're correct. The wounds of conflict ran deep. For Emperor Henry V, though, the end of the Investiture Controversy brought a long-awaited reprieve. Years of rebellion had drained the empire's resources and morale. With this hard-won peace, he could finally refocus on governance. Issues of law, justice, and territorial control became paramount once more, demanding his attention. We often forget how fragile stability can be, yet it is in these moments of calm that empires must prepare for future challenges.
But focusing on governance doesn't mean all is well, Aurelius. Sure, the imperial machinery might creak back to life, but that just glosses over the real issues. Local disputes are still there, simmering just below the surface. The Concordat might have stopped the fighting for now, but it didn't fix the countless grievances people have. Families are still divided, communities still fractured. We can't ignore the human cost of these unresolved tensions.
True enough. Pope Calixtus II emerged from these negotiations with a renewed strength that reshaped his role. With spiritual independence firmly in hand, he was no longer merely a religious figurehead. He became a statesman, a guardian of ecclesiastical rights. This newfound prestige granted him the leverage to instigate a wave of reforms across Christendom, pushing for changes that would strengthen the Church's influence in both spiritual and temporal matters. It was a remarkable shift in the balance of power.
But those reforms come with risks, Aurelius. The papacy's ambitions could spark new conflicts, especially as local lords feel threatened by this shift in power. While Calixtus might be enjoying his newfound authority, it could easily provoke others to challenge him. We have to remember, the peace we see now is fragile. One misstep, and everything could tip back into chaos, leaving countless ordinary folks caught in the crossfire. Their lives hang in the balance.
A valid point. The rest of Europe was watching closely. The Concordat of Worms set a precedent that could influence church-state relations everywhere. Monarchs in England and France observed the developments, weighing implications for their own realms. It wasn't just a local matter. This treaty sent ripples across borders. We can see how power dynamics shift. Each decision made here could spark reactions far beyond these lands. That's the nature of our interconnected histories.
Yet it's not a perfect model, Aurelius. You see, other monarchies might misinterpret the spirit of the Concordat entirely, twisting it to justify their own power grabs. The balance we've established is still incredibly fragile. Just because something works well in one region doesn't mean it can be easily replicated elsewhere. We have to remember that behind every decision, there are real people affected. The consequences can be dire if we're not careful about how we approach this.
Precisely. While the Concordat brought a temporary peace, it also left many questions hanging. The boundaries of papal and imperial authority still needed clarification. Local powers, always eager for an advantage, continued to press their claims. This treaty may have been a settlement, but it set the stage for new debates about governance and power dynamics. We often forget that peace can be as contentious as war, stirring ambitions that will inevitably rise to the surface.
The world was remade, yes, but we can't forget that history's judgment is still ahead of us. The Concordat's legacy isn't a sure thing. It might just be a brief lull before the next storm hits, especially with so many unresolved tensions simmering beneath the surface. We've seen how quickly things can change. The future is still full of uncertainty, and we need to stay vigilant for the sake of those who are still caught in the crossfire.
History teaches us that treaties can be both a resolution and a beginning. The Concordat of Worms was a significant step towards shared governance between the church and state. But we must ask ourselves whether it truly fosters harmony, or just postpones the inevitable. The specter of conflict looms over us, as always. We should remember that while we celebrate these agreements, they often mask deeper tensions. Only time will reveal if we've built a bridge or merely a facade.
That's where we leave it this time. Concordat of Worms continues. The story isn't finished yet. Find the full series on the Treaty Archive, part of the Archive Network. We'll be back with the next chapter.